Greetings and welcome to this installment of our trip to learn how to do 3D solid modeling with SolidWorks. This example is the Rivet. Now, hopefully you've already worked through the saw handle model, and this is the saw rivet model. Now, the key is for this is I want to make sure that you know how to do one key thing, and that is to make a revolved boss base. So let's open up a new file and get started. Okay, first we're going to again review that we've got a front plane, a top plane, and a right plane. Now, somewhere along the line, we're going to draw a sketch, a 2D sketch, and then make it go into 3D using a feature, namely this revolved boss base. But the first thing I want to mention to you is that this rivet is a revolved part completely. And because it's revolved, that must mean that its axis of revolution is probably one of the most important features that you can have. So we're going to actually create an axis based on these planes, and we're going to use something called reference geometry. Now, with a reference geometry, you can make a new plane, a new axis, a coordinate system, and point. There's good reasons for each one of these things to be created. But today we're going to make an axis. Now, there are a variety of ways of making an axis, either using an edge that's already in your model, two planes, 2 points can make an axis, some kind of cylindrical or conical face can define an axis, or a point that is normal to a face plane will give you an axis as well. In this case, we've got 2 planes, and we can choose 2 of any of these 3 planes. Now, remember that we use the front plane to define the main complex sketch of the handle. That front plane is actually going to be parallel to another plane of the rivet. So let us make sure that that front plane is parallel to the rivet plane. So that is actually not one of the planes that we want to use. We should use either top plane or right plane to actually draw the sketch. So the 2 that we're going to use to make this axis are the top plane and the right plane. Okay, so there is our axis. If you have a part that has a key axis like this, I always recommend creating one just to let everyone know that is going to be considering your part that, hey, this is important. This is the number one thing that you'll be referring to in the development of your model. So next we are going to make a revolved boss base. Now we can click on revolved boss base and then it'll throw us into sketch mode. I'm going to simply take the right plane, go to sketch mode, and then tell the computer to make our viewing normal to that sketch plane. Now, once we start sketching a revolved feature, the first thing we should do is create a center line. So I'm going to go up here, go to center line. And so remember, this is our origin. We want to make sure the origin is the most important point in the entire model, because we're going to define everything with respect to it. So I'm going to make this center line go right through this axis and the origin, and notice how all of a sudden we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relations popped up already. Now we are ready to do our sketch. I'm going to use common solid lines, and I'm going to start with the undercut that is shown with that 1-inch dimension. Click here, come down here, come over here, and notice I've got a horizontal line that when I get to this point, it indicates a vertical line for the origin. I go there, bring it down a little ways. Now, note very carefully in detail B, we have a little flat there. Then we're going to go off at 45 degrees. Then I'm going to go back this way. Then I'm going to go at 30 degrees, or about that. I'm going to come down to this line. Now, I'm only going to make half of the outline. Half, because it's going to be rotated through 360 degrees. If you try to do the full outline at 180 degrees, then first off, you're going to make a whole lot of extra work for yourself. And second off, it's not going to work. The program is going to say, no, you can only draw on 1/2 of a revolved part, because this is going to be this line is going to be our axis of revolution. So I'm going to continue up here, and then I'm going to hit escape. I don't want to do the curve line combo because that curve always comes off tangent at this point, and I don't want a tangent. I need to make a center point arc or a tangent arc. No, that's right, I don't want a tangent arc. Or I could use a 3-point arc, but the center point's the most obvious. Now, a big mistake that students make is making this center point immediately below this point. This is not a half dome. It's only a part dome. So I'm going to put the center point here, somewhere randomly on this line, but a little bit further past here. I'm going to start at this point and bring it up. Oop, I clicked in the wrong spot. I'll just hit Control Z, go back up here, and I think I should start a little further down this way. Ooh, watch out for that, because then it'll put it right at the midpoint of this line, and we don't want that. So you'd run into troubles that way. We go here, and oh man, this arc has gone all the way 332 degrees to this point. So if you keep going counterclockwise like this, it's going to run into the same problem. So if I go backwards around, sometimes you have to play with a little bit. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to come right over to here, to this point, and notice the yellow relation indicator right there. That's what I want. I want it to go to that point. I'm going to hit escape, and now I have no dimensions on here, but at least I got the basic shape. Now again, I forgot to make this from millimeters to inches, so I'm going to go down here, go to inches, and of course it boots me out of sketch mode, but all I have to do is right click over here on the sketch, move up here to edit sketch, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to go back to here, zoom in to this point. And I can take this point, I can drag it up and down. Notice how the other point moves with it. I'm just going to drag it down to the other point, and notice how it tells it, oh, we want it to be merged. So now it merges. So now those 2 points come together for me. All right. Okay, now I have all my relations pretty much set, which is really nice. I'm going to start throwing in dimensions. So I'm going to go to Smart Dimension and start with this one. And I'm going to tap in 0.38. Now it started at 1.32 something. But the nice thing about this is it will keep the scale of everything based on the first dimension. Didn't do it that well this time. So I'm going to have to hit escape and rearrange these entities somehow. It's fine. We can do this. So I'll just drag this down here, drag this point up here, drag this point over. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Drag this down here. Oh, this point needs to come down here. Ah, that's better. Over here. It's okay, to not have things absolutely perfect when you draw them. To start off with, we'll get there. And this needs to come all the way down here. That's better. Okay, let's move this here. All right, let's get some more dimensions in on it. So I want this to go from here to here at 0.25. Then we're going to go from here to here. Oh, wow. You have it exactly at 1, just about. Now, I'm going to show you something really, really cool. Very, very important, at least, if not cool. We are going to make diameter dimensions, even though we only have half of this sketched. So a very important diameter is the one of the overall diameter of the main shaft of the rivet. I'm going to click from here, and then, well, you might make a mistake by clicking on the axis. Oh, but here we go. If I stay on this side, we get a radius. If I go on this side, I get a diameter. And that diameter is supposed to be 0.38. And there it is. Oh, we still messed up a little bit here. That's okay. Hit escape a couple times to get out of dimensioning mode. And zoom in to help out. Click on this, drag this down. There we go. All right, let's go back and keep working on those dimensions. So again, click here, click on the center line, and that will give you a radius, and this will give you a diameter. I have more troubles with my sketch here, but I just move this up just to make sure that I'm getting what I want. And I want to put in a angle, so I can click here. Notice I can make this 45, but if I come over here, I get the reflex angle of 225. Over here, I get the obtuse angle of 135. Well, the drawing shows 45 degrees, so I'm going to actually make that 45 degrees instead of one of the other options. Okay, now we also have a 0.03 dimension here. So I'm going to click on this point and then this line just to make sure I'm getting exactly what I want. If I click on the point and the other point, now I could get 0.3, it might show up horizontal, but if I go over here, I might get 0.4. If the angle's not all that obvious, I might get something I don't really want. So this is, again, why I prefer to dimension at least to one straight line, because you know what angle, you should know what angle that's going at. So 0.03. Now this one we have at 30 degrees to here. So we click on this and that. It shows 30 degrees. Okay, so we've taken care of that part of the detail, and all we have left is this. Now we just need to make a dimension from the very top point to this line here, and it's 1.25, and it looks like everything has turned black. Sometimes it's hard to see the lines and whether they're black or not because there's the axis. Well, if I need to, I can right click on that axis, and this little thing with the glasses will let you toggle it to hide it or not to hide it. So now we can clearly see that we have a black line there. It's fully defined. I can right click on the axis again, bring it back in, or put it away. If you have just one center line, usually the computer will be smart enough to figure out that this is the one that you want to rotate the sketch around for your revolved boss base. But you could potentially choose any one of these other straight lines. So let's figure out what we're going to do next. Okay, so all we have is this sketch. Now we made this sketch, again, focusing on this center line and only doing everything on one half of the revolved section. Let's go over to Features, Revolved Boss Base. Now it's going to do this yellow thing again. There are a variety of ways of taking care of this. We can click on that revolved boss base. We could have done it before. It would have thrown us into sketch mode. Fine. In this case, I clicked on it, and now I have to select the sketch. So here's the sketch, and it automatically assumes I want it to go 360 degrees. It assumed that this is the line that I wanted to do. Assumed a few other things. We don't have a second direction or the feature, anything like that. And it's 360 degrees, which it is. So we don't have anything else to click other than a green check mark. And here is our rivet, all set, ready to go. In this video, we went over first how to make an axis, but before we even did that, we thought about our design and said, where is this going to fit with the rest of the saw, and in specific the handle? So we chose to make sure that our front plane was going to be parallel to the front plane of the handle. Knowing that, we created an axis based on the top and the right planes, and then made our sketch. This sketch made sure that we first made a center line so the computer knows best which line to rotate this about. Then we made everything with respect to that center line. We only created half of the cross section so it could rotate it around 360 degrees. And then we made diameters, clicking on the center line and some other aspect of the cross section. In this case, it was this line for the 0.25, and in this case, it was this line for the 0.38. We noted that we might not want to choose points to do dimensions around because they can shift around without you noticing at funky angles. So we try to work on dimensioning to lines as best as possible. And we reviewed the different types of angles that can be developed, whether they're obtuse, reflex, or, as often is the case, acute. And specific to this design, we noted that this radius here is not to the intersection of this line and the center line, but it was somewhere else, and we had to make sure that this radius reflected that. Finally, we actually created the revolved feature. Using the revolved boss base, and because we had selected everything carefully, we had to just accept the defaults, and we ended up with the rivet as we were supposed to. Last step, should have been one of the first steps, is we will do a save as. And once this is saved, we can now use it in an assembly or a drawing. I hope this helped, and the next one to view is the saw blade.